Shelley Jones. I'm standing here today as currently a pharmacist of 17 years. My first 5 years I spent in a compounding pharmacy, and the last 12 I've been a retail pharmacist and manager of that pharmacy. I decided to continue my education last year, and I'm continuing my education in nutrition. I'm currently enrolled at the Nutritional Therapy Association. It's a vocational school outside of Olympia, Washington. It's a 9-month course, and with the completion of that course, I will be a nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm required to do a community project and or outreach project, and so that's why I'm here today. I do want to thank Danielle for helping me with organizing this and helping me be here. So I'm here to talk to you about and educate you on the importance of our stomach acid. There's an overwhelming amount of people who reach for an antacid like tons of Maalox, an H2 antagonist like Zantac or Pepcid, or proton pump inhibitors, which are Prilosec, Nexium, and Prevacid. So usually the first sign of something burning, indigestion, that's what they go for, or they go to their doctors, and their doctors will prescribe them these products. Many people continue on these for a long period of time, which really can cause nutritional deficiencies, and that's why I'm here as well to talk. So has anyone ever taken any of these products before? Alright, well, if anybody has, you're not alone. There's over 60 million people, so about 1 in 5 people are diagnosed or have reflux. I have a small volume pharmacy. We dispense between about 500 and 600 units of these a week. If I took that into the U.S. with all pharmacies, that's over 33 million acid reducers dispensed per week. In the prescription world, there's a top 200 list of prescribed drugs, and on that list, Prilosec, Prevacid, Zantac, and Pepcid are on there. There's 4. In the over-the-counter world, which a lot of these products are available, in 2013, they have a top 10 over-the-counter products for sales. Top 10 for sales in digestive aids. The first one was Poise, which I don't understand, but anyways, it's an adult incontinence product. That was #1 sales of over-the-counter products for digestives. #2 was Prilosec. That had over $358 million in retail sales in 2013. #5 on that list was Zantac at $114 million, and #8 out of 10 was Prevacid at $92 million. So we've got 3 of them in the top 10 list. So we can see that stomach acid reducers are really big business. An interesting fact that's stated actually in the package insert of a prescription product of Prilosec is that patients should only be on these products for 4 to 8 weeks, basically for 90% of the indications that they'd be taking this for. There's a very small portion of people who actually do produce too much stomach acid. Very, very small portion. Patients are on that for years. And in my world, I see this happen. I believe there's an overutilization of these products. I believe there's a misleading information as well as to why we're experiencing the stomach discomfort, the bloating, GERD, and across all age groups, from little ones to the elderly. So let's talk about it. So first, I'll be talking a lot about pH, the pH scale. Just so we're all on the same page, pH scale starts at 0 to 14. In the middle is a pH of 7. So it basically stands for the power of hydrogen, is what pH stands for. 0 being acid, and 14 being basic or alkaline. Okay, 7 is neutral. So a basic product that you'd be familiar with would be bleach. And then acid, hydrochloric acid, you know, just we all know acid. Neutral, anything like water. Water is neutral. We can do anything. So we'll be talking a lot about that, so keep that in mind. So I have a quiz, and if you get it right, you can get yourself a bottle of raw apple cider vinegar, which we'll talk about later. Who knows where digestion begins? Yes?
In the mouth.
Incorrect. It's a trick question. Digestion begins in the brain.
Oh.
So digestion is a north to south process, and it starts in the brain. It starts with like seeing your food, smelling your food, and being relaxed or in a parasympathetic state. That starts the process of digestion. Then it goes to our mouth, where we are supposed to chew our food nice and slow, and because our stomachs, you know, they don't have teeth, so naturally we want to really chew that up, start the breakdown of carbohydrates. Once it passes from the mouth through the esophagus, it's going to go through the LES, so the lower esophageal sphincter. And that basically is where the food is separated from the stomach. So it goes through there, and ideally it's not supposed to come back up, and it's going to hang out in the stomach. And our stomach is where we start the breakdown of food. There's really not a lot of absorption, but what is absorbed is incredibly important. The main purpose of a stomach is to just start the process and start breaking it down. All the absorption really begins or happens in our small intestine. But in your stomach, when you eat, you're going to get some gastric juices that are released. Mucus, which will help coat and protect the stomach lining from the pure acid, basically, that's also being excreted at the same time. Acids excreted, hydrochloric acid is excreted in the stomach at a pH of about 0.8, so practically pure acid. We also have some other enzymes that are released, one of which combined with hydrochloric acid will start the breakdown of proteins. So it's very important to digest your proteins, and you need the acid to do that. A normal functioning pH of our stomach is between about 1.5 and 3.0. It goes up a little bit when we ingest food, when we ingest proteins. The pH does increase, which is why we need that really strong acid to be pumped into our stomachs. So also with that very low pH, it's going to help disinfect our stomach, kill any strange pathogens that might find its way there. Once it continues through the stomach into the small intestine, it's called chyme at that point, is the name of the product. It will pass through the pyloric sphincter, and it's going to hang out in the duodenum. In order for the passage into the duodenum of the small intestine, we have to have that low pH. If we don't have that, there's not the trigger to open up and let things pass. So kind of keep that in mind. Also in the small intestine, with the proper pH, we're going to have assistance from the gallbladder and the pancreas, which will help digest more proteins, also help digest the fats. Anything left over, once it's passed through the small intestine, it's going to go into our large intestine. That's where our indigestible fibers, bile, water, those are the things that will eventually become excreted. So that's proper digestion in a quick overview, and so I'll move to digestion dysfunction. I have another quiz. I still have 3 bottles here. Okay, so who can tell me the #1 cause of digestive dysfunction?
Low acid in the stomach.
You're getting there, but there's something that causes the low acid in the stomach.
Improper diet.
How about stress?
Yeah.
I was thinking that. Stress. We need a relaxed state to
Yeah.
start proper digestion. Parasympathetic state is needed to digest. Another dysfunction, kind of simple but very complex, is we don't chew our food. When food's not broken down enough, the stomach, can't really do its job very well either. There's also not enough time for the brain to really start the triggering of acids and to start the process of digestion. So if we're eating super fast, our body's going to be a little delayed as well. So we really want to kind of slow down and chew our food. There is a test that you can have done called the Heidelberg test that you can request to see, what your stomach pH is. This is something that, you can do, and it might be kind of interesting to find out. Another interesting idea is that as we age, we actually produce less stomach acid. So the older we get, it's even more important to take these steps to help ourselves. So really, we have all this talk about acid, but what is the big deal of too little acid? Okay, well, you have a high pH. When you have that high pH, stomach contents can't pass through. They're just going to hang out there. They're going to hang out for a while. So proteins can putrefy, fats can acidify, and carbohydrates can ferment. Imagine all that happening and just hanging out. So, I did an experiment today. I made breakfast for my blender. So, it was hanging out, unfortunately not at body temperature completely. So, it still smells bad, and I did kind of see a little bit of bubbling going on, but this is what happens with our food. It chewed very well, but it did thicken, and it doesn't look too hot. I'd rather there be some acid in there and then also a way for it to get out of the blender, but it's not good, and I kind of wish there was more gaseousness. It doesn't smell good either. So imagine burping and yeah. So next time I'll add acid to it and see what happens. But yeah, that's eggs. We have some yams, some bacon. We have some red pepper and a little bit of saliva. Each time I added something, I kind of added a little bit of my saliva in there to help with the toast as well.
Totally.
Yeah, there's toast in there too. So with that high pH, you're also going to allow for foreign bacteria or parasites or yeast, viruses. There's stuff on our food, and our stomachs protect us from that. So if we have a high pH, those foreign organisms can survive and they can thrive. An example would be H. pylori. H. pylori we all have, and for some people it can multiply and grow and build a little home or a condo. And so you need, it's that pH that would knock it out. And unfortunately, treating H. pylori doesn't happen that way. Story for another time. So, high pH, you get the indigestion, the GERD, the reflux. Also, if you're getting these things and you're getting a backlog of acid up into your esophagus, you can harm your LES, the lower esophageal sphincter. It can weaken it. So if it's not strong and solid there, it's going to be much easier for food to come up. And that does happen. It's very common as well. So this undigested food will cause backward flow up into the esophagus. So why does it burn, right? Well, it's burning because your esophagus is not made for anything more than a pH of neutral, really, between like 6 and 7. I'm sure you've experienced, taking a swig of something, alcohol, vinegar, and it will burn. of course it will burn, because that's your esophagus is not built for that stuff. So that's what that burning is. It's not necessarily that you have too much acid. It's just the chyme is too acidic for the esophagus. So really, it kind of is making sense that the real problem to a lot of these issues is that there's not enough stomach acid. But obviously antacids work, right? So why do they work? They work because they're raising the pH of the chyme in your stomach. They're bringing it to neutral. So you might still have a backwash of food, but that is going to be at a pH that's tolerable for your esophagus. So you really are not solving the problem. Now you're making it worse because the chyme is too neutral to let all the other triggers happen. So the spiral downward is halted. And then everything just kind of can sit there. Eventually it goes through, but not in a time that is going to benefit you. And then what is it going to do to the rest of the body and the digestive tract? Well, with an increased pH, it's going to interrupt the release of pancreatic enzymes. So the pancreas is required to pump out these enzymes to also aid in the digestion of proteins and further breakdown. Also, a trigger for proper pH trigger would be to release bile. If you're not releasing bile, you're not digesting fats, and so you're not breaking that down. Also, the pancreas releases sodium bicarbonate, which is released into the small intestine because the small intestine is not made as well for an acidic chyme. So that is also going to help bring it to neutral and let the normal processes begin. When that doesn't happen, you can get what's called duodenal ulcers. So you get constant burning in the small intestine causing ulcers. With undigested proteins, if you're not getting the proper enzymes, you can get what's called like a leaky gut. These proteins make their way outside of the small intestine, which can actually trigger immune responses, allergies, autoimmune disease. You're also not, if you're not breaking down proteins, you're also not getting proper nutrients for the heart. The heart requires, for example, coenzyme Q10, and that comes from proteins. So you're lacking nutrients that are essential for the heart. Nutritional deficiencies beyond that, vitamin B12 is required for red blood cell production. That actually kind of starts in the stomach. So if you don't have the proper pH, you're really not getting that, that B12. Iron and calcium absorption also occur in the stomach. So you've got that going on. Zinc and sodium chloride, they're actually required to make hydrochloric acid. So if you're not digesting those, which you need to and break down in the stomach, then you're not going to be able to make the hydrochloric acid. So there's a little spiral effect there. So it's not an endless cause, if you have high pH. You can get back to an optimal function. First of all, the stomach actually heals itself. It can heal itself in about 2 weeks. So if you've ever looked at an over-the-counter Prilosec product, it will say not to use for more than 2 weeks. Whether or not people do that, I don't know. Most likely not, as we see. But that you may need that to help heal ulcers in the stomach. But it will go and be healthy again if you treat it properly. Relaxation eating will help you increase the amount of acid produced in the stomach. I've started sitting on the floor eating. It's really kind of nice. It's not always ideal, but if you can't, there's other things to help you. But relaxing while eating is important. Slowing down and chewing your food. how many handheld food products can you buy? And there's a reason for that, right? Because everybody's running around, you're in your car, and you're eating, and you're in a rush, and right there, like, just don't even eat, because it's definitely not benefiting you, and most likely it's not a nutrient-dense, unprocessed food product either, which is also very important. It's best to avoid drinking large amounts of water or beverage with your meals, because as I mentioned earlier, eating proteins, it will also affect the pH, and which is why your stomach is going to pump out extra acid. But also water or beverages can dilute the stomach acids as well. So, have sips and things, but it's best not to, gulp down a lot of beverage with your meal. They do make supplements that can help you. Hydrochloric acid supplements, there's different companies that make different things, but a lot of them have betaine in it, which is the supplemental hydrochloric acid. There's also options, which I haven't been able to give any of these away yet, but raw apple cider vinegar is really great to just, sip on. If your appetite's poor, you can actually have some of this to stimulate your appetite. The malic acid, actually, from the apple, has a rich source of hydrogen, which also can stimulate the release of the pepsin to help with protein digestion. And also being raw, there's probiotics and enzymes to also aid in the digestion. So in nutritional therapy, digestion is fundamental to optimal health. Every cell that makes up every tissue, that makes up every organ, depends on the body's ability to provide nutrients to it. Hippocrates said all diseases begin in the gut. And as a review, with low stomach acid and improper digestion of proteins, you can get allergies, autoimmune, lack of nutrition for the heart. Improper digestion of fats will actually interrupt the body's natural inflammatory pathways. You can also have hormonal imbalances, maybe depression. Lack of nutrients, if you lack B12, iron, that could lead to an anemia. Calcium, lack of calcium, lead to an osteoporosis. Foreign proteins that hang out and thrive, you can get infection. So really, if you can think about keeping your terrain healthy, we have the capacity actually to defend ourselves just through our own innate intelligence from all the toxins in our environment. And that is all I have. Thank you. And we have time for questions if there's any questions.
And stop.